Today we discuss the law of least resistance. It is one of those fundamental universal laws that the universe obeys in every possible way, from the smallest particles in the subquantum field to the largest supergalactic nebula. Everything in the universe is trying to achieve the maximum result with the minimum amount of energy. Your own physical body is a textbook of this universal law in miniature. In the functioning of your body and your life, everything follows this rule. As incredibly complex as this body is, it is all based on a couple of primary rules.
Primary rule number one is survive at all costs. And that's what sets us up for the fight or flight response. So all my five senses are stuck into the world to see if I'm being threatened. That's why we have five senses stuck out into the world. Am I being threatened or not? Is it good? Is it neutral? Or is it bad? And if it's the slightest degree bad, I have a full-blown alarm response just to be on the safe side in case I'm being threatened. So I'm already up and ready. And if it turns out to not be life-threatening, then I relax that. Fine, no problem. If I didn't have an alarm response when I truly was threatened, then I die like an idiot because I didn't obey rule number one, survive at all costs, which means have a full-blown alarm response with anything that's new, anything that's different, anything that could be that I don't know what it is, needs to be evaluated. Rule number two is the rule that obeys the path of least resistance. Rule number two is get the most work with the least amount of energy expended. Every single system in the body gets double, triple duty. For instance, my bones hold my system together, but they're also partially hollow with something called trabecula, like sponge-like openings. And that makes the bones lighter and more flexible and therefore stronger. And it's where the bone marrow is, which manufactures red blood cells, so triple duty. Essentially, in the universe, there is no waste. Zero waste, 100% efficient system. Water constantly flowing along the paths of least resistance. It flows over, it flows around things, it never shies away from dropping down some dark hole opening into some subterranean caverns and wherever they happen to go. It's always following this path of least resistance, the perfect sort of Zen example in landscapes in general. This, a satellite photo of Grand River shows us a map of the pathways of least resistance. Fractal designs is what these look like. It's amazing how all of this starts to look like your body after a while. Here's a map of all the river tributaries in the United States and how all of them flow together and form larger pathways of least resistance from smaller ones. They all coalesce together and coalesce together and coalesce together until they reach the sea. The final place where the path of least resistance ends is the ocean itself, 2/3 of the planet. And so it is with how we organize our lives. Those of us who can align with the flow of nature, align with the flow of life itself, because life itself is like a stream that's following its path of least resistance. You do not need to use your own personal power, your own personal effort, your own personal energy in order to accomplish anything. It's one simple rule. Follow the path of least resistance of energy flow.
Eventually, in nature and in the human sphere, in your own body and in your own consciousness, the paths of least resistance lead to a place of stillness, a place where all the flow ends somewhere in a huge pool, a pool of energy, a pool of consciousness, a pool of water. Giving up effort requires a lot of effort. It is necessary to let go of the addictions one has toward emotions, to stop lying in all circumstances and first of all to oneself, to respect one's integrity, to listen to that voice of truth that is present in every personal action and decision. Do not do to others what you do not want done to you, and do not think of others what you do not want thought of yourself. The thoughts you entertain will be reflected back to yourself.
To become effortless takes a lot of effort. It's good to compare it to learning an instrument or learning a sport. It takes effort to let go of effort itself, to relax and allow the flow to go through you, because our knee-jerk response is the effortless state requires a lot of effort. And no, it only takes a lot of effort to learn how to let go and allow the effortless effort to move through us, to flow through, just like water. A pebble drops into the water and the water accepts it without question and has a response. Same kind of thing that we see in music and in sound waves. Gravity is the same kind of thing. It's a point of falling. Things are moving towards this point of falling. So, for instance, the earth that you're sitting on a chair and the chair is sitting on the ground. You're plastered against the ground because your body is trying to fall to the center of the earth. You're falling towards a point of falling, an attraction point. And the only reason you're not following and moving there is because the earth is in the way, because the earth got there first.
You're walking a path of life that comes to a fork in the road, and each of those forks leads to another fork in the road, and even those are paths of least resistance. On the path of least resistance, you have your realizations. For everything you want, there is a path of least resistance to help you achieve it. When you see and keep a wish, there are 20 or 30 immediate paths you can follow right away. The question is, which one do you take? How do you know? How do you get through this maze of paths that lead to forks? And those forks lead to new forks, which lead to new forks. Which forks do you take? How do you know?
From the ancient standpoint, how you know is your gut tells you, your gut feeling, your intuition. You have to now rely on something deeper inside of you that does know. The little voice that speaks to you, every time you don't listen to that voice, you regret it. As time goes on, when you don't listen to it, you get punished. Something bad happens to you. And then you realize the next time that happens, you listen to that voice. And the more you listen to that little voice, the more you can trust it. And the more you trust it, the more you listen. And the more you listen, the more you realize that your life is filled with these choices. Every microsecond of every day, there's forks and pathways and signs and omens that the universe is nudging and saying, look at this sign, look at this omen. Listen to the voice. Follow that path. Don't make this decision from up here and do that one. Listen to this one and follow the one that the universe is flowing pathways of least resistance for you. If I desire something and I want something, that desire and that want itself, when it's for the betterment of my soul, is part of a universal law of its own. That is the voice. That voice is the path of least resistance that's saying, don't resist. Flow with what's trying to come through you. Allow it to happen. Make the effortless effort. Find your still point and listen to that voice. Listen to the influence that's pushing you. Sometimes the voice is not a voice in your head. It's a sign. It's an omen. It's a bird landing on the pathway in front of you and looking at you and then flying away. It's 100 things like that. That once you begin to pay attention, it's all around you. The universe is communicating to each one of us in all kind of symbolic forms that's helping to nudge us to allow ourselves to open to the flow that's trying to move us along the path and sort out which forks we're supposed to be taking. It's us becoming water, fearlessly allowing ourselves to drop into whatever pool or go around whatever obstacle in a matter of course without thinking about it. I'm a part of the cosmos. I'm part of that flow. My thinking mind sort of gets in the way and gets out of touch with that flow. And I start making independent decisions and I go against the flow. And whenever I go against the flow, I get whitewater. I get turbulence, I get disturbance, I get problems. I have pain, I have things, I have weird stuff show up. because I'm not in the flow anymore. I'm up here making independent decisions because this part says, I don't know if I can tell what I'm supposed to do here. Excuse me, but that's not the part who's supposed to be deciding that. All of it ending in this ultimate place of least resistance where all of these flows are heading toward. The ultimate ground state, the state of ultimate ease, the still point. All forces are attempting to fall to this place. And when we're in this flow, we have power, we have force at our command, universal force.